The film starts by showing Wang Duoyu, a 37-year-old goalkeeper, who claims to still have his form intact as he flaunts his specialty to Mr. Jin. Mr. Jin then asks him to take a bribe and let his team concede 3 goals in the match they will be playing the next day. Duoyu rejects the bribe because of his dignity and dedication to the team. He saves the first clear chance the opponent team gets to score against his team during the match. But Wama's decision not to take the bribe distracts him. A goal enters the net. He gets the biggest shock of his life. The opponent team scores more goals and Duoyu starts to lose his mind. It looks exactly like he did it on purpose, whereas he didn't. The opposing team even thanks him for letting them win so easily. His teammate, Kwang, rushes to him the next day to check how he's doing. They go back to training and their coach doesn't seem to longer need Duoyu in the team. Kwang ends up getting kicked out also after he tries to support Duoyu. On their way back home, a man dramatically fakes an accident for them. They beat the man for trying to extort them. A lady comes to the scene and starts to blame them until they look like oppressors. Duoyu and Kwang are then arrested and Mr. Jin bails them. However, Mr. Jin confesses to Duoyu that he was not going to sign him to any team. The bribe he gave him was actually a test, and he passed for not taking it. Duoyu watches his mouth in confusion. Mr. Jin then takes him to the mansion where he begins to explain everything to him. Duoyu had a great uncle who recently passed away, and he is the only heir left who inherit the property of the deceased billionaire. Mr. Jin plays in the video of his late uncle concerning the will. From his late uncle's will, Duoyu is left with a choice of either spending 1 billion yuan for a month, without leaving any assets, or take 10 million yuan and leave. Duoyu eventually picks the former. Mr. Jin warns him to follow the rules of the will or else he will be disqualified. Mr. Jin then offers him an accountant that will monitor all his activities. The accountant turns out to be the lady that previously criticized him at Kwang. They finally show Duoyu and Kwang the vault where the 1 billion yuan is and they nearly faint. Duoyu's business flourishes, and he becomes the talk of the town, all over the news. However, he begins to have nightmares. Kwang brings his friend, Genius, to the team and Duoyu accepts. Suzu, on the other hand, doesn't get the love she wanted on her birthday with her boyfriend. But Duoyu makes her day with a lot of fireworks. Eventually, Suzu realizes that Duoyu is a loving man and she gets along with him. Duoyu keeps winning as Genius shares with him a very big profit they made. Duoyu begins to freak out for real this time around. Instead of his money to reduce, it keeps rising. Duoyu finally devises a method of spending all the money. He publicizes himself and offers 1,000 yuan per kilo of fat loss. Everybody in the city begins to exercise, and as they lose weight, they get paid. Hence, his money then reduces drastically. Right from there, he starts spending the money. He employs the security guards to start working for him. He then proceeds to his Daxiang team training field, and he shows them unbelievable love. They form a convoy in no time, and they go to a big hotel. Duoyu buys out the whole hotel services for his teammates. He also hands over the affairs of his company to Kwang, and that renders him shedding tears of joy. Duoyu keeps on living extremely rich and large while Kwang looks after his business. A man then rushes into their business discussions with his invention. Duoyu invests in his project and begins to grant the dreams of all the people there. Later on, Duoyu invites Mr. Lafitte, the founder of the investment world, to his mansion. Duoyu annoys Mr. Lafitte with his nonchalant attitude until he angrily leaves. His attitude also annoys Suzu, and she abuses him, but Duoyu does not fire her. Following the charity program, Duoyu gets an award. Later on, the Daxiang team plays against Hangtae in a stadium full of people in support of Hangtae. Duoyu and his teammates arrive at the stadium with helicopters. When the match starts, Kwang purposefully pisses Hangtae's main player off until he punches him. For that offense, he gets sent off. Now that the biggest threat is out of the way, Duoyu's teammates try their best, but they are still no match for Hangtae. However, it is said that if Hangtae defeats the Daxiang team with a 2-figure score, they win. So Duoyu and the rest of his teammates make sure that it doesn't happen. In the end, Daxiang prevents Hangtae from scoring the 10th goal, and they eventually triumph. After the win, Duoyu discovers Suzu has been kidnapped, and he goes straight to Mr. Yin and his friend. He beats the hell out of them. He then figures out they didn't kidnap Suzu when the real kidnapper calls him. The kidnapper demands 10 million yuan ransom. Duo hears this, and he begins to freak out. Meanwhile, Shizu is actually not kidnapped. It's the last test for Duo. Shizu learns the truth from Mr. Jin, and she feels unsure if Duo will bring the money to save her. Duo, on the other hand, loses his mind as always. Duo calls Mr. Jin to complain to him about the Shizu situation. Mr. Jin pretends to know nothing, and he refuses to adjust the rules for him. He sings and dramatizes because he doesn't exactly know what to do. He loves humanity on a normal day, but the money requested will get him disqualified. He finally decides to save Shizu, and he goes there physically. He eventually finds out that it's actually a test and he has passed it. Shizu also shed tears of joy after what Duo did for her. Shizu and Duo get married in the end, and they decide to donate all their money. The film ends as they write out what their unborn baby might need before donating all their money.